What's up, everyone? It's Cool Trainer Zach, and today I'm going to dive into a sale that went through on eBay a couple weeks ago where this buyer bought a set of PSA 10, Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, and Venusaur from the Scarlet and Violet 151 set, and they paid $404. And at the time, I was thinking, this is crazy. They are paying a crazy premium to own this set, but now that price has done what it's done over the last few weeks, we're going to dig into the data and take a look and say, did this buyer overpay, or did they actually get a pretty good deal, and did they have the foresight to know where these cards were going over the next couple weeks? So at the time, I thought this set was going to go for maybe $350, because if we pull up our Pokédata price data here and we look back on May 30th, the Venusaur in a 10 was going for $152. The Ivysaur was going for about $86, and the Bulbasaur was going for about $93. So I put all those together. I do a little quick math in public. It's about $330. So seeing this set go for $404, it's not even sequential. So I was thinking, what is this buyer doing? I felt like these guys got caught up in sort of a bidding war. Everyone's trying to smash in a bid at the last second just to win the bid. And we all know how that can go. You can get kind of carried away and you end up overpaying. So I looked at where this auction finished and said, this person definitely overpaid $404 to own these three cards. That didn't really make sense to me at the time. Now, if we look at where the price is sitting, our Bulbasaur is sitting at $104. So I'm going to type that in here. Our Ivysaur is sitting at $98 last sold. And our Venusaur is sitting at about $170. That brings us to $372. So in the short term, I feel like this buyer still overpaid by a bit. Again, these aren't sequential, PSA sequentially graded cards or anything like that. It's just, the full evolution line from this 151 set. However, I think this speaks to the fact that the illustration rares and the special illustration rares from the 151 set have been on an absolute tear lately. So we all know that alt arts have been going crazy, and the next logical thing that you might ask is, what is going to be the next trend? Where is the next play going to emerge? And I think what we're seeing is some of that momentum that we've seen in the alt arts has started to bleed over into the Scarlet and Violet 151 set and the Scarlet and Violet set in general. So if we take a look at where our Venusaur was trading back in April, not that long ago, this is just a couple months ago, if you remember, we were trading $115, $120. So over the last just couple months, we've run up from 120. We briefly touched like 175, and now we're sitting at about 170 for this Venusaur. That is a pretty big run up. I mean, we're talking 60, 70, 80% run up in this card. And even for these other cards, which, the starters are always going to have somewhat of a premium built into them, but for these illustration rares like the Ivysaur and the Bulbasaur, they've seen a pretty good spike too. We were trading, again, back in April, we were around $90 on the Bulbasaur, and now we're sitting at, we touched 110, we come back down to about 105. Not as much of a run-up, but we are seeing some price appreciation there. If we go back and we look at just the 151 set in general, and we go ahead and sort by PSA 10, sort from value high to low, we can find some cards that have had some pretty crazy appreciation. I know this Alakazam has definitely been moving. We'll go ahead and pull up the price data for the 10 here. So let's check out PSA 10 in Alakazam. We can see that generally when these sets launch, the 10s are always trading at a crazy premium. So right off the bat, this thing was trading at about 165. And, you basically get punished if you buy these 10s right out of the gate. Everyone kind of knows that at this point. And so, we eventually settled down in the, we can see it kind of flattened out here, 85, 90 kind of range. But now we're all the way back up to $115. This is a special illustration rare from the 151 set. So I think we are seeing some price appreciation in these illustration rares, special illustration rares from Scarlet and Violet era. And I think that's kind of a consequence of that momentum bleeding over from the alt art craze that we recently saw pop off. It's not to the same extent, that's to be sure, but I think that people are trying to figure out what's the next play. Where is there going to be a lot of value and price appreciation in these other sets who weren't able to kind of hop on the train and catch the price appreciation in the alt arts. Another example that I had pulled up just out of my own curiosity, this is the Pidgeot EX from the Obsidian Flame set in Scarlet and Violet, and we can see that this thing has been on an absolute rip lately. I was kind of benchmarking off the April prices, so we're looking at, I don't know, we kind of opened up April around $50, and we've seen this thing run up all the way and touch 92, and now we're sitting at about 87. So, the Pidgeot EX, we're a few sales away, depending on how some of these sales go. We're touching $90. We're looking at, from the lows here back in March, we're looking at already a double. And if you got into this thing at $50, you're almost sitting on a double just in the span of a couple months. So all this is to say, it feels like the illustration rares and special illustration rares, particularly in the 10s from the Scarlet and Violet era, have been going kind of nuts lately. I was at a show recently and talking to some of the vendors, and I was in particular looking to pick up some 10s from this set, basically anything in the Scarlet and Violet era, but especially the illustration rares and special illustration rares, and I couldn't find much. And I was talking to the vendors, and one thing they told me was, look, it's really hard to hit a 10 in Scarlet and Violet. This may be common knowledge, but this was news to me. They're saying, in some of the past sets, the print quality was a lot better. If you pulled something pack fresh, it was 40-50% plus. That if you pulled it pack fresh and threw it straight into a sleeve, you were going to get a 10. With Scarlet and Violet, that rate of pulling 10s is somewhere down around 30%. And so it's really hard, just with the print quality that we've seen in the Scarlet and Violet set, Scarlet and Violet era, to pull these 10s. So I think there's a huge premium being baked into the 10s in Scarlet and Violet, and that's really been my focus lately. I've been really keeping my eye out. I've been keeping an eye on Pokédata and kind of seeing how these 10s have been ripping from the Scarlet and Violet era. I think that's still an opportunity, even though cards like this Pidgeot are sitting basically at all-time highs here. I think that with how hard it is to pull 10s in the Scarlet and Violet era, there's going to be basically a premium baked into these for quite a while. And then you couple that with the fact that people are kind of rotating from the alt art craze and looking for what's coming next. I think we're going to see a lot of appreciation in the PSA 10s, or some of the other 10s in the Scarlet and Violet era. So that's what I've been seeing recently. I think specifically the special illustration rares, if we go back and check out just kind of how the whole set is moving as a whole, let's check it out here. We've seen a lot of appreciation, particularly in the 10s and particularly in some of these illustration and special illustration rares. So if we go ahead and sort by price, we filter everything for a 10 here. We're going to see, our Venusaur is sitting up there. That's one of the top cards there. Art on this thing also just beautiful. I mean, the full art just absolutely beautiful. We see some other kind of standard arts sitting in the top 5 here. Then we're going to scroll down. We're going to see, kind of what you'd expect. Some of the starter evolution series. You're usually going to see those in the top. We have this beautiful Zapdos here with the full art sitting in the top 10 here. And then, like I mentioned, this Alakazam. I actually think this Poliwhirl is a super beautiful card, super pretty. And if we go ahead and take a look at this and pull up just the 10s here, we can see, yeah, actually this thing's been going like more or less sideways, but I have seen this thing kind of rip in the recent, handful of weeks. I was taking a look at it back here. It was trading around 60, 70 bucks. I said, okay, I'd like to, maybe look for this at the $40, $50 range, just because I thought there was great value there. It's since really run up to, it touched 86, 87 here, and now it's sitting right around 82 bucks. But actually, if we look at some of the last sold, this thing is about to crack 100. Looks like someone got in for a great deal down here at around 43 bucks. But you can see this is pretty consistently been trading in the 80, upwards of $95, $99 range, except for this absolute Chad right here who scored it for 43 bucks. So again, for these full art, these really beautiful cards, even though this isn't a particularly highly sought after character, I do think we're seeing a lot of price appreciation, both in the full art series from the Scarlet and Violet era, and particularly in the 10s, just because they're so dang hard to get. So I'd love to hear what you're seeing, what kind of moves you're seeing in the market. I think there's been a lot of interesting stuff happening in Scarlet and Violet lately. I'm really interested to see what happens to the cards from Twilight Masquerade as they start getting graded. Again, as you know, right out the gate, 10s from the newest sets, there's always going to be trading at premium. Someone's always going to be taking basically a huge L if you're buying those right out the gate. But I would expect to see, kind of a dip. And then, again, just because 10s are so hard to pull from this era, I would expect to see those rip right back up. So curious to know what you've been seeing, what you've got your eye on. And if you like this kind of video where I'm digging into the price data, digging into some of the last solds, let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to do more. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.